You are about to embark on a spectacular journey. Prepare yourself with a calm breath and open mind.
Hi everybody.
Consider the greatest source of light in the known universe.
This is a lesson on
sun.
This is
Look again at the sun you see here.
Okay. This is a lesson on Inharmonics. And that was from Guided Inharmonic Meditations, Volume 1. Not really related to what we're doing, but fun to listen to. Okay, so the first step on our journey is enharmonic spelling. Sometimes a composer will just spell a pitch enharmonically, or sometimes an entire chord will be respelled enharmonically for various reasons. And this can be tricky to analyze them unless you think of the enharmonic spelling of it to figure out what its function is. One reason that a composer might spell a pitch enharmonically is to show the direction that it's moving in. So in this chord we see here, the 7 diminished 7 of 5, it's tonicizing C, and the literal spelling is B, D, F, A flat. But you'll see in the first version there, the A flat is moving to A natural. So a composer might say, I'm going to spell it as B, D, F, G sharp, and then the G sharp resolves up like it should. And of course they sound the same, so it's enharmonic. Versus. Okay, but in the third setting, you would want an A flat, because the A flat is going down to the G. So we've seen this with the French 6 and the German 6, augmented 6 chords. Whether you spell it as a may or a re, it depends on the direction in which it's going to resolve. Okay, another reason why we might have an enharmonic spelling is to make something easier for the performer to play. So here's a kind of unusual example. We're in A flat major, and then we're starting to borrow chords as well, so there's going to be lots of flats. And the composer decided to give those flats to the cello and the first violin, but the inner voices are switched to sharps, which are easier for string players to do, apparently. So we have, when we look at the chord from bottom to top, we have a mixture of two different key signatures, essentially, and it's kind of unusual. But if you think of this B natural as a C flat, and think of this E natural as an F flat, and then you put the chord together, you have an F flat major triad. And they're playing an E major triad here in the middle. So that's something that could occur. And it could just be that they all had E major instead of F flat major, since people may be more comfortable playing an E flat or an E major chord than an F flat major chord. Now the third thing you might see, and this is where things start to get a little more interesting, is the use of enharmonic keys. You might need to go to an enharmonic key to avoid a key that has a lot of accidentals, or even a key that doesn't exist. So here's a couple of progressions where we would have ended up in an impossible key. So I'm in B flat, and then there's deceptive motion to G flat. Now I'm in the key of G flat. And then I want to go to the parallel minor, G flat minor. Okay, so there's a switch to G flat minor. If you think about the key of G flat minor, that would have 9 flats in it. So that's an impossible key. Whereas F sharp minor, which is the enharmonic key, is a very sensible and easy key to use. So this is an example where we switched from all flats to all sharps enharmonically to make it theoretically possible, as well as easier to play. Here's another example. It starts in E flat minor. Okay, and then we're going to have a 5-1 that's going to be going to we want to go here to C flat minor. So that G flat major chord there is my 5, and then that takes me to the 1 in C flat minor. Now think about C flat minor. that would have 10 flats in it. So obviously that's not a good key to go to, and instead we've gone to B minor. So another case where an enharmonic key has saved the day. Okay, this is where things start to get really fun. In harmonic reinterpretation, we have some chords that can be harmonically reinterpreted in a different key, and then resolve them differently than we expect them to resolve. There are two types of chords that we're going to look at that can be harmonically reinterpreted like this. So the first is the dominant seventh chord, like this one here, can be inharmonically reinterpreted as a German sixth, and they have the same sound. So instead of sol, ti, re, fa, f, la, do, mi, fi. Okay, so composers noticed they sound the same. They said, well, what if I resolved it as the other one? So if I started out like this, in G major, 5, 6, 5, 1, and then a 5, 7, a 4 to the 4, 5, 1. So this is resolving like a regular dominant seventh, right, like that. Here's that progression again. Now, if we respelled that G, B, D, F natural as G, B, D, E sharp, which your ear can't see that, then that E sharp phi is going to resolve up, and we're going to go in a different place. And we have now modulated to the key of B from the key of G. Okay, so that is a way you can modulate through an enharmonic reinterpretation of a chord. You might even do both ways. So the first phrase might go like this, just to set us up then. And then that's the unexpected result of enharmonically reinterpreting a dominant seventh as a German sixth. So whenever we use enharmonic reinterpretation to modulate to a new key, then we'll call that an enharmonic modulation. And a common one is to use the 5, 7 of 4 as a German sixth, but it could be any dominant seventh, could be reinterpreted as a German sixth. So this example here actually uses the same chord progression we just saw. We start in G, we reinterpret the 5, 7 of 4 as a German sixth, and it ends up going to B major. That's always a nice surprise to have an enharmonic modulation take us to an unexpected place. Now we have one other type of chord that can be enharmonically reinterpreted in different ways. And this is a very interesting chord. It's the fully diminished seventh chord. This is a chord that's symmetrical. We've talked about it. It's got all minor thirds, right? And if I kept going, so this is Ti, Re, Fa, La. If I went B, D, F, A flat, the next note would be. As it wraps around on itself, it's always minor thirds. So it's a symmetrical chord. There's minor thirds everywhere. You can enharmonically respell a fully diminished seventh chord in 4 different ways. And this actually can allow for 4 completely different possible resolutions of the chord. So let's look at this chord that starts on G sharp here. All minor thirds, and the next one would be another G sharp, which is another minor third. If we spelled it that way, then it would resolve to A. Now, if we respelled it as G sharp, B, D, E sharp, now E sharp is the root, and it would resolve to F sharp, right? It would be the 7 diminished 6, 5 in the key of F sharp. Now, if we spelled it, now switching to flats, or D, F, A flat, C flat, now D is the leading tone to E flat minor. Let's go back and do it one more time. Now if we do B, D, F, A flat, respelling it one last time, the B is the leading tone to C minor. Listen to all of those again. And those all seem satisfactory, and they can take us to 4 different places. Because of the properties of this chord, that you can respell it and it still sounds the same because of the symmetrical properties. Any one of those 4 notes can act as the leading tone. So that's probably what you should remember. In a fully diminished 7th chord, any one of those 4 notes could be the leading tone to a new key. And each time we respell the diminished 7th chord, it's a different inversion in a different key. Now to summarize, here's a quick example of using those fully diminished 7th chords to modulate. So, and whenever you find a diminished 7th chord, beware of these inharmonic options. Remind yourself, any one of the notes of this chord could be the leading tone. Could take me to 4 different places. So here are a couple of examples that do that. Here's the first one. Same chord but spelled differently. Now we took it to G major. Right? So the first time we heard that chord, here we had D sharp, F sharp, A, C. And the D sharp was the leading tone to E. Then we spelled it again, the D sharp's now changed to an E flat, and now it is F sharp, A, C, E flat. Sounds the same, but now F sharp is the leading tone to G, and it resolves to G major. Okay, let's try one more. Okay, so we have modulated again. We started in the key of C minor, and by the end we're in the key of E minor. And it had to do with this chord here, which the first time was spelled as B, wait, this isn't the one I'm looking for, it's this one here. F sharp, A, C, E flat. And we took that E flat, and you'll notice that the E flat is repeated as a D sharp. So the first time it looks like it's F sharp, it's going to go to the dominant, right? 7 of the dominant. But there's an inharmonic respelling just of that one pitch. And now it's D sharp, F sharp, A, C, which D sharp is now the leading tone to E, and we go to the key of E. That's a little bit complicated, so let me do that one more time. Repeat that note, but respell it. Okay. All right, so there's an introduction to how we use inharmonic respellings to modulate. This has been a longer lesson than usual, and we'll talk about this more in class, but there's a quiz that follows.